Russians should not hope for the occupation of Kherson, not to mention Kyiv, Odessa or Transnistria. The disintegration of the Russian armed forces is in full swing. The situation is very explosive. This frank statement was made by the Russian angry patriot Z-blogger Maxim Kalashnikov. In one of his latest blogs, Kalashnikov admitted that the Russian troops are in a deep crisis. According to him, it is pointless to talk about an offensive on Kherson or about forcing the Dnieper now. What Kherson? What Transnistria? What forcing of the Dnieper? Guys, you know the troops are very exhausted. Very unpleasant processes are happening there in the relations between officers and privates. I just won't make it public now, but there is a very large flow of information, bad information. Kalashnikov said, these words sound especially telling against the backdrop of constant propaganda about the successes of the Russian army and attempts to impose on society the illusion of control over the situation. Even if figures like Kalashnikov begin to talk about internal problems, it means the situation at the front is much worse than they are trying to present in the official agenda. The mention of unpleasant processes between commanders and personnel hints at a deep split within the army system. It is about demoralization, loss of discipline, conflicts and a drop in morale. All this is a direct consequence of a protracted war, endless losses and the lack of a clear goal. Earlier, Z-Patriot is worried about the future of the Russian Federation. He expects that the Russian Federation will repeat the fate of the disappeared Russian Empire and the USSR. Kalashnikov compared the current stage of the war with previous crisis moments for Russia. For example, with the halt of the offensive at the beginning of the SVO and the loss of the cruiser Moskva, with the flight of the Russian army from Kherson and Izium, as well as with the Prigozhin mutiny. However, now, according to Kalashnikov, the main threat is not the front, but the worsening economic crisis inside the country. We are facing a dangerous economic crisis. A protracted war is a terrible disaster that is fraught with economic collapse, even inevitably leading to it. Our own economy has fallen into the millstones. The Ukrainian economy receives a lot of support from Western allies, but we do not have such support. I believe that the crisis will be very, very strong. This can really undermine both the economy and political stability, Kalashnikov said.
A group of prisoners of war detained in Russia returned to Ukraine Friday as part of the ongoing exchanges negotiated between the two countries during talks in Istanbul last month, according to the body that oversees the exchanges. According to Associated Press in a post on the messaging app Telegram, the coordination headquarters for the treatment of prisoners of war said the group who were classified as wounded and seriously ill were returned from captivity. It did not say how many people were released but said the youngest was 20 and the oldest 59, adding that many had been held since 2022. Dozens of relatives of Ukrainian POWs and missing soldiers came to a hospital in Kiev to welcome some of the exchanged servicemen. Among them was Lyubov Demenkova with her 9-year-old daughter Sofika. She told the Associated Press her husband Ihor Demenkov went missing in July last year and has not received any information about him since. He was mobilized on Sofika's birthday, she said. Now she doesn't really like this holiday, she doesn't like to celebrate it, because it is associated with sad events.
Ви найкращі, дякуємо вам!
Ми шукаємо чоловіка, тата. Він у нас рік уже як зниклий безвісти. Оце 6 числа буде. Зник він у нас на Харківському напрямку, на Липецькому, поблизу населеного пункту Глибоке. Уже рік ми не маємо жодних вістей. Там зникло, з тих, що нам відомо, це около 300 хлопців. Це тільки ті, чиїх рідних ми знайшли. Жоден з них не обліковується не живим, не мертвим, не полоненим. От просто наче не існувало цих хлопців, наче вони десь ділись. Ми їздимо на обміни, Софійка перший раз, з надією, що хоч хтось скаже, що буде хоч якась звісточка, що він живий, що він в полоні. Можливо, хоч хтось із його побратимів з цього напрямку. Тобто це вже також буде як ниточка. Ще більше вірити, ще більше надіятись. Він у війську із 6 березня 24-го року, а 6 липня він уже зник безвісти. Тобто він повоював зовсім трохи від моменту мобілізації. Речі, мобілізували в нас його на Софійки на день народження вперше. Тому вона тепер у нас не дуже любить це свято, не любить його святкувати. Бо воно пов'язане з сумними такими от подіями.
Також хочу сказати, що побратима, свого друга, який теж знаходиться у Полтаві.
Заспокоїлося?
Заспокоїлося?
Восьма бригада є, тут чули, просто написати. І що? Таганівка, 3 года вже, 3 года! Мальчики, милі. Дякую Богу, що ви вдома. Білоус Андрій! Білоус Андрій! Президент! Плойка Макар!
Дякую, дякую.
214 фор! Ви найкращі! Дякую!
Також хочу сказати, що побратима, свого друга, який теж знаходиться.